Welcome to the Songwriter Connection, the podcast that delves deep into the art and heart of songwriting. Each week, we gather around the dining room table to uncover the stories behind the songs. We invite you to join us on a journey to the creative minds of the songwriters who shape the melodies of our lives. From Nashville, Tennessee, here's your host, Dave Lenahan.
So, this is episode 182, and it publishes on the 13th of November, if you're listening on the day that it came out. But we're recording it on the first day of October. And the reason why I want to say that is because this is the first time I've had a chance to talk with you since the passing of a true great. We lost Chris Christopherson over the weekend. I'm just heartbroken about it. The guy was really one of the greatest and has done a lot of things. Influenced so many other songwriters. And you think about the genius of this guy, he can paint a picture. I mean, he really could. You know, the freedom of an eagle as it flies. You can just about see it. Or how about, a line like, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Now, you hear that a lot. It's almost cliche, but there's the guy who wrote it. I mean, Chris Christopherson, and we lost him at the age of 88. So rest in peace to one of the greats, Hall of Famer Chris Christopherson. I'm still in shock about that. And I'll leave it right there. I was reading a trade publication this past week, and this caught my eye. There's a new country format on the horizon. Country programmers are really experimenting, and maybe it's already out there by now, of mixing pop music, the top pop tracks, with the top country tracks. And I'll tell you what, today, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. So I could see that may be working. There's been a lot of controversy about how pop country is sounding today. And I want to tell you that is nothing new. I started in country music radio in 1980, and back then we talked about it. The Statler brothers were singing in protest to that. A lot of other ones, too. And I remember artists like Kenny Rogers and Ann Murray hitting the charts, and people going, well, those are light rock artists. Those aren't country artists. And it goes even deeper than that. In the 50s and early 60s, we had that countrypolitan kind of sound. We put the fiddles in. We had kind of a jazzy sound, and people were going, hey, country music, I think about when the first time drums were used on the Grand Ole Opry. Oh, my God! The truth is, we evolve. We evolve as a genre. It reaches more and more people. And I'm sure, though, that today, if you listen to country radio, you're going to hear a song and you go, what about, this happens to me all the time. I'm driving and I go, what about that song is even country? There's no fiddle, there's no steel, there's no banjo, there's not even an acoustic guitar. There's a big beat. I guess it's because of the lyrical content. Maybe because the singer is singing in a southern accent. I don't know what it is, but I'm not criticizing and I'm not judging. I think it's good to expand the genre to reach more people, and country music has never been more popular than it is today. The sad part is we're missing out on that traditional country sound that I grew up loving. And, as Ali Colleen said on this show not too long ago, it's out there. You just got to find it. It's out there. It's an Americana music, and I love Americana radio. It's out there. There are artists like Zach Top, and there are artists like help me, Ben, name some of these traditional, Cody Johnson, John Party. You know what? I have a brain for it, but I listen to that kind of stuff all the time, and. Even if you look back into like the 70s, when we were going through that countrypolitan, early 70s, the outlaw movement started, and it started a whole new thing. You had guys like Waylon and Jesse, of course, and you had Willie and Chris and Johnny, bringing it back to the fold. And there are people out there doing it today, like our guest. It's Ben Jarrell. Hi, Ben. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I love the stuff that you're doing. One of my favorite albums these days is your album, A Country Song. And it's just one great song after another. And you're getting so much publicity these days, some good press. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that to start with. Great article and review on this album, A Country Song, on Saving Country. And that's Saving Country Music is a great site that I go to and get a lot of news from. You should be congratulated because American Songwriter magazine says And the top 5-notch independent country artists you need to hear, Ben Jarrell is one of them. And Ben, can I just read some of the things they say? This is kind of
sure.
I think this kind of sums y'all up, doesn't it?
Yeah, you talk about me all you want. That way I ain't got to.
American Songwriter Magazine, which is a great publication. They say Ben Jarrell, an independent artist making pure country gold. He's an independent country artist from Alabama who leans hard into the genre's traditions. He wears the influence of genre titans like George Jones and Johnny Paycheck and John Prine on his sleeve, but he isn't a stranger to the blues. Infused southern rock with songs that call for a harder edge sound. You've listened to Allman Brothers, those kind of things. It's Blackberry Smoke, even in today's music. Jarrell makes it obvious that he spent years listening to the greats. It's packed with pedal steel, fiddle, that Telecaster twang that we love, Nashville Telly, and acoustic guitars. However, he's not just stepping into a studio or onto a stage and copying those who came before him. Instead, he distills those sounds into something fresh and familiar. And Ben, I preach about it all the time on the show. Find your own genre, correct? Come up with your own thing. And I think you found it, haven't you?
Well, thank you. Yeah, part of the discussion with country music as a genre, I think, is, I've got friends who would say that nothing on that record's country music. They're listening to people like Charlie Crockett, and you put that record up against a Charlie Crockett record, mine sounds like a modern country record.
Wow.
So as many years as I've lived here, which I'm working on year number 8 now, I first got here and I was very anti-everything. And more and more as I've made friends that make all different kinds of country music, I just kind of more live in the area or the mindset of there should just be room for everybody. If somebody doesn't want to put pedal steel and they want to put drum samples and auto-tune, I'm not the authority to say that that's not country music. I'll just say it just doesn't sound like country music to me.
Right.
And I like...
That's a good point. That's why I said I don't judge.
Yeah, I like mid-'70s to early '90s country songs, and I like 70s into like early 80s production choices. Like before they started using electronic drums all the time and DI and strats and the tri-choruses and everything else.
Absolutely.
And I just kind of, I'm not pursuing anything mainstream, so I don't think I'm going to be a super famous gazillionaire, but quite frankly, I'm paying the bills.
And so. You're doing well and you're doing what you love.
Yeah, I'm a big Willie Nelson fan, and one of his quotes that I live by is, "I don't do anything I don't want to do." So I still, unfortunately, do sometimes, but I'm working towards that nirvana of only doing what I want.
I love it. That's really great. That's really good. And you grew up in Alabama.
I'm from Southeast Alabama.
Southeast Alabama. That's not considered L.A., right? Lower Alabama.
I mean, it is. It's just a lot of times when I meet people and they're like, "Oh, you're from South Alabama. I love Gulf Shores," and I'm like, "No, I didn't grow up that well. I'm over near the nuclear plant.
Oh, God.
Basically, nobody knows where it is until I tell them it's where everybody gets pulled over going to Panama City."
That's true.
But there's some, a guy that, one of the guys that, was doing stuff and is still doing stuff before me that came out of that area, out of Hartford, was Shane Owens.
Okay.
He's still doing his thing.
Good.
And then, I grew up watching, watching Wayne Mills and Jamie Johnson and all those people.
Great influences.
And then there was always Hank Williams and Vernon Gosden and all that stuff spinning through my grandma's house. So
really?
Yeah.
So at an early age, you were exposed to some of the greats.
Yeah. My whole family encouraged me to sing country and bluegrass music. So, of course, when I became a teenager, I got a bunch of tattoos and started playing rock and roll bands.
Of course.
We call it rock and roll retirement at this point whenever we decide to start playing country music again. There's a lot of, rock and roll, punk rock, metalheads that ended up becoming country singers later.
And you did it all, too, right?
I pretended to. I impersonated rock and roll singers. But, it was funny because a lot of times afterwards we'd have after parties after our shows, and people would get drunk and encourage me. They'd be like, "Hey, sing some country music, sing some Johnny Cash, sing some Haggard, whatever." So eventually I just kind of stopped being as rebellious in rock and roll and then just, I guess, carried that rebellion back into country music. So
that's cool.
I'm pretty stubborn.
When did you first pick up the guitar? How old were you?
I was about 8.
About 8.
I had my grandma got me a nylon string Yamaha, and
Well, he had that nylon string, so
yeah. One of the first songs I learned was not a country song, though. I was pretty upset. I was born in '86, so I remember having that Antonio Banderas movie Desperado on VHS.
I remember that.
And I must have rewound that intro and that musical part so many times to learn it that I wore out that tape. But that was one of the first songs I learned was actually the El Mariachi. Yeah.
El Mariachi.
And then I think I stuck with it for a little while. And then this girl that lived down the road from my grandma, she liked music. And I learned a song that she liked, and then she liked me. So that's when I decided to, start committing myself to music a little more.
I got it. Yeah. A lot of guys will say they picked up the guitar to get chicks.
Pretty much, yeah, because where I come from, I ain't that good at fishing. I ain't that good at football. And, I grew up around
It sounds like the
race
lines to a
cars.
country song.
Yeah.
I ain't that good at fishing. I ain't that good at football. And go from there.
No, I pretty much, I learned that pure country soundtrack, and then then I didn't have a problem anymore.
Yeah. Still love George Strait.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. You can't beat him, when it comes to Texas music. So, well, that's cool. And what brought you to Nashville? When did you decide to move here?
Before I moved here, when I left home, I moved down to Central Florida, which, bless their hearts, they're not doing real good right now with that hurricane. I lived in Tampa Bay, right there on the tip of the peninsula, in a little town outside of South St. Petersburg called Gulfport.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of like a bohemian, I'd go 3 months without ever putting on a pair of shoes, you know what I mean? And it was just hippies and
The knife.
And the cool thing was I knew about country music, but a lot of them folks around there, being from the West Coast and different places, they turned me on to songwriters that I'd never really ventured into. One of my favorites still is Warren Zevon.
Oh, I love Warren Zevon.
And I had this
amazing guy
this guy, my buddy's dad. He would sit out by the pool, and basically he'd be like, "Well, I'll buy you beer and cigarettes if you sit here and listen to every Warren Zevon album with me," And he'd always pause between the songs, and I really admired how much he knew about Warren Zevon and music in general. And then after that, my buddy had moved to Central Oregon, and I'd never been really outside the Southeast that much. So I went there, sold everything, went there in Bend, and I lived there for about a year, made a lot of great friends, met a lot of nice people.
I had a friend from Bend, Oregon. He used to tell me it was the most beautiful place on earth.
It really is. And I was still playing, I had been playing bluegrass for a while then, so I was playing bluegrass up there, and then the snow came. So about 3 days after that, I dug out my minivan, threw my cat Fred in the minivan, and I didn't stop till I got to Vegas. And I drove straight down. I didn't even take one of the major interstates. I just drove straight through.
Down.
Straight through the middle of Nevada overnight.
Wow.
Luckily, I'm a skeptic, or I probably would have gotten freaked out about where I was driving through. I didn't realize it till afterwards, but it was like you'd hit seek on the radio and it would just keep spinning.
You couldn't even get a station.
Couldn't even get a station.
Isn't that crazy?
And then, so when I went back down to Florida after that, and my buddy Steve Connolly, he has a studio down there, and he's kind of a, I'd say he's a pretty popular guitar player down there in Pinellas County. Mm-hmm. We made an EP that I never put out, and he said, "Man, you need to go to Nashville." And I said, "Really?"
Yeah.
And at that time, I'm not too cool to admit it. I'd say probably them first 2 Sturgill Simpson records is what finally convinced me.
That's the name I was trying to remember, Sturgill Simpson.
Because I heard them, and I was like, well, if they like this, then maybe I can go give it a shot. Of course, as soon as I move here and start meeting everybody, he moved, everybody moved. I'm like, all right. And, I think I've been here about 8 years now. And, I like it. At first I didn't. I like it a little more every year. At first I just didn't, because I used to go out a lot. I don't like going out a lot. I don't like going out and drinking and everything, because I'd watched this Marty Stewart interview, and he talked about being a student of country music.
Yeah.
And everything in my mind changed. I was like, well, I'm wasting time out here drinking and hanging out at the honky tonks. I need to be studying if I'm going to be a student. And then I just kind of kept developing that thought of being like, okay, well, Nashville's like college. You know what I mean? Learn everything you need to learn, network with who you need to network with, and then
Interesting.
And then take it, especially if you're going to be independent country, take it outside of Nashville.
I got you.
And then, you know, I had some artists that were nice enough to let me, you know, jump on their tours, some independent, you know, guys and gals, and then I discovered that the Midwest is pretty much the best place to play the kind of music I play. They love it. They kind of, you know, I feel like the mid-'90s up till now, mainstream radio didn't fool them. They just switched over to classic country radio.
There you go.
And and then outside of that, you know, I discovered Texas. But Texas is, you know, I love it, but it's also one of them things where somebody from Texas has got to invite you over. You know, you can't be showing up unannounced. I tried that. They didn't like that. So hopefully I'll make some Texas friends that'll invite me down there because I love it every time I play. But right now, man, the Midwest, them folks have helped us, you know, get some bills paid over the years. That's
awesome.
So,
yeah, you were very busy this summer, weren't you? Just out there.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't touring a whole lot. I'll do one-offs. Like I'm going this weekend up to one of my favorite little spots, the Riverbend Pub up in northern Kentucky in Vanceburg.
Oh, cool.
Just good people. I can try new songs. You know, they don't care if I don't play a single cover, you know, and you know, pay's good, food's good, folks are good. And then I just went out to Oklahoma City to do that private event with with Hal and Greg. And that went well.
We're talking about Hal Odell, who's been on the show, and Greg Wilson, who's the songwriter.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. So that was at Will Rogers Theater.
Yeah, it was great.
That must have been awesome.
Oh, it was super fun, man. I loved it. All the folks were nice, and people who put it on. And, you know, I haven't played a whole lot in Oklahoma, but they were really receptive to what I was doing. So, you know, hope to go back. And, of course, you know, Hal and Zach and Greg, among other writers.
There's your tribe right there. You guys have been writing a lot. Zach Hennard, Greg, and Hal. You guys write still like every week, don't you?
Well, Hal's got a place here, but he's out in Oklahoma. So Hal isn't in as many co-writes as I would prefer. But at the same time, and I know Zach and Greg won't mind me saying this, Hal's the kind of writer where I don't need him to be there to write with me because I can just record stuff he writes by himself.
I got you. Yeah, he's good.
I mean, I'll swallow my pride and say it. Like, that man can write a song by himself. I'd have to write 10 before I get one as good as his. So, you know, it sucks that he's not here and I can't see him out all the time. But, man, he just keeps sending me stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'll take that one. I'll take that one. That's why I got into producing, because I got so many dang songs on hold at this point between Hal and Zach and Greg and everybody else. And I'm like, well, I might start convincing some other folks to record this.
To record these songs.
Yeah.
We're going to get into your production in just a little bit and producing. But I want to play a song from a country song, which is we're going to find salvation in a country song, as you say in it. And it's getting lots of attention, and it's doing real well. This is Saving Country Music, a great review on this record.
Yeah, and they've been a great resource over the years, you know. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of, that publication has kind of become the biggest deal in music reviews if you're independent, you know what I mean? And they've always treated me well. And honestly, I can be kind of lazy, and I like to listen to new music all the time. So
you know, you told me before this interview, and this impressed me, and I just want to say it. Every day in the morning, you do what?
I listen to 2 albums, one that I've never heard and one that I love. And just
what did you hear this morning? I'm just curious. What did you listen to this morning?
This morning, I listened to Kate Turner's new EP. She's a country singer, female country singer out of Washington State.
Wow.
I've been following her for a little while. I like some of her stuff. And then I listened to Working Man's Dead, the Grateful Dead album.
Grateful Dead? Wow.
Yeah. I hadn't jammed their stuff in a while. And I'm not a huge, I'm not a deadhead by any means, but they did a couple of albums where, the songs weren't 15 minutes long, and that's and I think that's probably a pretty typical album for country fans to gravitate towards. But I just I've been listening to a lot more Willie Nelson, and I've noticed there's a similarity in that kind of. I'm sure somebody out there knows what the beat's called, but there's a certain beat like him, them and Leave on Helm and Grateful Dead. They have this kind of.
Love the band.
Yeah, they kind of have this. I don't know. I call it like a hopping beat. The hippie hop or whatever you want to call it, but I've been wanting to incorporate more of that into some newer songs. Just I tend to fall pretty quickly into the 4 on the floor stuff or into the double time boogie stuff.
Love it,
or the shuffles. So I'm trying to
waltz every now and then.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to expand into some of that kind of groove and Willie Dead stuff without getting too out there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, let's play something from a country song.
Sure.
And you said this is the one that has been getting the most spins this month and September, October?
Yep. This month. So for the month of September, this one had the most spins. And, of course, this one's the one you're a writer on, too.
Yeah, I was a word for a third, I think.
No, that was fun. It
was a fun write.
My favorite part about recording this song was I think when we wrote it, you weren't sure what was going to happen with it.
It wasn't.
So I love that,
Do you know what? I love that about writing a song. Somebody will throw out a hook and you're not sure where it's going to go. And then you talk about it and you get there. And it's like a mystery that uncovers as you go. And a really good example is a song that you recorded years ago. And you were talking about Zach Hennard. Zach was over here one day with Greg Matthews, who, by the way, sends his regards, was chatting with him this morning. And Zach throws out this title, Bald Tires.
Oh,
I want
yeah.
to write about the bald tires on my truck.
Yeah.
And Greg and I are both like, what? And we start thinking about it. And Greg goes, I get it. I've been driving on bald tires my entire life.
Well, that album will actually get re-released here pretty soon. I just, I don't have any kind of good management or anything, so I've done, like the first
Doing
record.
it all yourself.
Well, the first record I put out, I just got screwed. It was my first little deal. And, of course, I haven't seen a penny from it. So my most popular song, Black Helicopter,
Great song, by the way.
I'm going to have to recut it.
Yes, yeah.
But anyways, so with Up and Headed West, the album that Bald Tires is on, I just tried a couple of distribution companies and kind of it wasn't as advertised.
Yeah.
And the way that they distributed it was so weird that it wouldn't let me release it from that past date. So now I've got to re-release an old album after a country song, even though it came before it. But I don't, as a music fan, I don't care about that stuff. I just want to listen to music.
That's right. Yeah. Well, let's play Hole in the Sky. This is Ben Jarrell from A Country Song on the Songwriter Connection podcast. Get a feel what this gentleman's all about. You'll love it.
Monday morning, it ain't habit forming. It's more like a log grab, a tornado warning. My head is hurt, it ain't hardly working. Just another lesson I'm getting tired of learning. I just say the word and I walk off this world through that hole in the sky. It don't matter when, I don't have to pretend that I need two wings to fly. And there ain't no way I'll waste another minute wondering why. I just say the word and I walk off this world through that hole in the sky. Neon radar, our son cranked that guitar, running red hot like a rented race car. Low class dance hall, tequila basketball, chasing something on the other side of last call. I just say the word and I walk off this world through that hole in the sky. It don't matter when, I don't have to pretend that I need two wings to fly.
Great song. Can you tell us a little bit about the writing of that song?
I mean, I honestly, I don't remember. I know we all went out to Zach's houseboat.
Yeah, the first time Zach asked me to go ride on his boat, I said, okay, that's fine. I'd like that, a boat. And I grew up near Lake Erie, so, a boat is like a big boat is 35 feet, something like that. I thought it'd be cool to get some suntan lotion, get out on the boat. And I get there. This thing is 75 feet, and it's this big houseboat with 3 levels.
It's like the nicest triple-wide trailer I've ever seen sitting on top of a barge. I mean, it's honestly, I mean, I'm not going to take all the credit, but I know that when Hal and I knew that there was a possibility he was going to get one, we were very much encouraged because I was like, look, I'm a Hank Cochran fanatic, and he wrote a lot of really good songs on a houseboat.
On a houseboat, yeah, he did.
I ain't convinced him to take it down to the Bahamas like Hank yet, but we'll get there.
We'll get there eventually. So I remember you kind of had a little groove. This is what I remember, but you had a groove and you had the idea, and
I knew I wanted to write like something that shuffled, and then we also made the joke about there's a lot of songs that we like. I think one of the ones we brought up was like Way More Blues, even though this sounds nothing like it. And it was, and I remember bringing up the conversation of like, okay, well, what does everybody think that song's about? And it's like, well, it's not really it's about nothing.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of the thing was like, all right, well, let's write a shuffle that's about nothing. And now I've heard 5, 6, 7 different explanations of what it's about. And
what's your favorite?
Sometimes. One of my buddies asked me if I had been eating mushrooms when we wrote it, so that was probably my favorite.
There were no mushrooms involved. I'm a witness.
No. Maybe before, but
not during.
No.
That's funny. Oh my gosh,
it was a fun song.
Yeah, and you said your favorite interpretation was what?
A couple of people asked me what the song was about, and I told them,
what's it about? Yeah.
I told them whoever writes the biggest check for a show to book me.
Yeah.
I said whatever they think it's about. That's what it's about.
That's what it's about. So yeah, room for interpretation. I love songs that are like that. Because you put it into the mind of the listener. So we're going to talk more with Ben Jarrell, who's our guest on the Songwriter Connection podcast. Don't go away. Short break.
You're listening to the Songwriter Connection with Dave Linehan. Find us on Facebook and YouTube at the Songwriter Connection Podcast. And find Dave at thedaveconnection.com. Now back to the show with your host, Dave Linehan.
If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe. By the way, on YouTube, we put our first video podcast out. My friend Martin Buchanan, who shot the video for my latest song, Absalom, came in here, sat in the dining room, and shot a video of the Brooklyn Summer interview. It was Brooklyn and her mom and Scott Berriger and I. So if you'd like to see what the dining room looks like and how we do this show, go to YouTube and do that. And hit like and subscribe, if you will. I certainly do appreciate that. We're with Ben Jarrell today, and we're talking about music, country music, and his roots and the stuff that he's doing. You are also producing music that you were talking about. I
think I still got a little bit of imposter syndrome on it because I've only produced 2 records so far. But one of them's coming out on the 18th of this month, or I guess in this case it would have come out on the 18th of last month.
Okay.
And that's Anna Westcoat, and the name of the album's World Famous. And and then later on, maybe about the time this comes out, hopefully, Nick Sizemore's latest album, Everything. So those are my 2 first productions.
Awesome.
Nick's is country, a little bit more rock and roll. He's a Midwestern guy, so there's a little bit of that in there. And then Anna grew up and still lives in Havana, Florida, which is about an hour away from where I grew up.
Okay.
So it was a pretty easy album to produce because she went to the same kind of church as I did. She sang the same kind of way, better for sure, even than I can sing. And she just had the right attitude for the kind of records that I want to produce. Because I think a lot of people that do independent music now, they want to write everything.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them for that, but have this idea in my head of like, well, I don't think there was anything wrong with the Nashville recipe. I think the cooks just screwed it up around 95. Yeah. So for me, I believe in having an engineer that can be an engineer and a bass player that can play bass. And everybody has a job that they do. And as a producer, my job's not to make her do anything she doesn't want to do, or that any artist doesn't want to do. It's best song wins. You know what I mean? You bring 10 songs, your 10 best songs to the table, and I'm going to bring the 10 best songs that either I wrote, my friends wrote, a cover, something I could find, and then it's cage match. And it's got to be undeniable. Mm-hmm. And she and Nick were both very receptive to that, and now I've got 2 albums I produced that I can listen to front to back, and there's no filler.
And you're proud of them.
Yeah. I'm really proud of them. Yeah. I want to keep doing it. I just also, we were talking about it earlier, I know that it's a luxury and I know it's a privilege. I can sing and I can write. So because I can go pay my bills with an acoustic guitar, and I'm going to be picky, and I just only want to produce stuff that I like, which I know most people don't have the luxury of doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's going to be, I'd like to eventually do some old school blues or some old school R&B.
Yeah.
But I just love country music, and I listen to so much of it that I know how it's supposed to sound to me.
Gotcha.
And I think with Anna, I think we went from about 1962 to about 1992 with the production. But like I said,
you're doing it that style. We're not talking any auto-tune or Melodyne, none of that stuff. It's just authentic.
Same with my record. It's no auto-tune, no Melodyne, no gridding, no samples on the drums, none of that kind of stuff.
Just real music.
The only thing that we did differently than the way Steve Daly produced my record was when he produced that, Cannon Moltz, the keys player, he played on an upright piano that we had tuned and mic'd up and everything. Yeah. On Anna's record and on Nick's record, I think on Nick's we used that same piano as well, but on Anna's record it was just constraints. So the piano and the organ and the Rhodes and all that, it's digital. It's high quality digital, but it's still played by a person, So I'll compromise from time to time, because basically the deal was either there's no keys at all on the record, or we're going to have to use, a Nord. So, and I'm happy with how it sounds. I think it sounds incredible.
Let's play a little bit of it. Some people, this is world famous. This is the title track from her record, and this is produced by our guest today, Ben Jarrell.
Let's do it.
All right. Love that.
Betty pours Daddy a cup of joe. Says she's in a big city now, don't you know? You're gonna hear my little girl on the radio. Ain't that something? But it would break his heart to know just how far I've got to go. The sun comes up and the sun goes down. Still nobody knows I'm around. I hope folks back home don't ever find out, 'cause I'm world famous in my hometown.
But that's brilliant. World famous in my hometown. Who wrote that song?
That's Carlene Watt and Gene Peterson.
Gene Peterson. There's even a Bill O'Hanlon song on this record.
There is, yeah. Home, Heartaches, Etc., I believe is the title on that one.
Bill, great songwriter who's been on this show in the past, so I just want to give him a little
it was him, Anna, and Nancy Deckett, I think.
Nancy Deckett from Discover Sooner. Mm-hmm. Great friend. That's good. Anna Westcott, that song and the record is streaming everywhere right now, and I hope that you'll check it out and play it. It'll become one of your favorites. I guarantee it. And it's all produced by Ben Jarrell. Thank you, Ben, for being on our show. You've got my acoustic guitar there. I hope we can talk you into playing some.
Sure.
The thing about this show is we like to play live around the dining room table as my cat comes in to observe. Hi, Juliet. Ben's going to play you a song right now.
Sure. Yeah, I'll play you a new one I wrote with my buddy Doc Lewis.
Doc's another good guy.
This one's called A Call from Room 204. I can hear you smiling on the other end of this worn out motel phone. Letters wrote I forgot to send. You must be feeling so alone. Saw some folks just the other day, and it made me think of you. They held each other in some kind of way, so I figured a call was the least I could do. You ain't the kind to give your love away, so I'll only ask your heart to borrow. 'Cause I love you more than I did yesterday, but less than I will tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be heading home. I left lonely yesterday, 'cause hearts like ours, they shouldn't be alone. So I'm coming home to stay. You ain't the kind to give your love away. I'll only ask your heart to borrow. And I love you more than I did yesterday, but less than I will tomorrow. 'Cause I can hear you smiling on the other end of this worn out motel phone.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I hear some of those really licks in there, and I love that. And your voice is so cool in country. I mean, it's like I hear a little Merle. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just had a problem with emulating people early on, so I just tried to emulate as many people as I could. That way, when I'm singing my own songs, I just get kind of confused, and then I don't rip off just one person.
Oh, it's definitely you. And we've talked about that on the podcast before. If you're an artist or a songwriter, to find your own groove, find your own voice, not only as a songwriting voice, but also your singing voice. If you intend to perform your songs out, and you could, borrow here. Listen.
It's like learning guitar licks.
It is.
If you want to do a low scoop, there's Daryl Singletary. You know what I mean? Like he always did them low scoops, and I think I think something that people overlook a lot about Whitley is like when he would sing really high notes, he would get quieter and quieter and quieter.
Yeah.
Which Steve Daly taught me about that singing whenever he produced a country song record. He was like, "Hey, when you do them high parts, stop singing so loud and sing quieter." Yeah. That's how Whitley did it. And then I was able to really control my pitch a little better. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a couple flat tires on the record, but, whatever. At least it's real.
At least it's real. That's right.
And then, man, and I've just been writing like crazy. I've been writing with Pete Young, who played drums on Anna's record. Been writing with him at RCA, so that's been great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
There's a lot of pressure every time I walk down that hallway to go to a co-write.
Yeah. RCA, I mean, there's, all the greats that were in there, from Chet Atkins to Elvis recorded there, So,
I'm thankful.
Dolly.
I'm thankful to get to work there and and you know, right there. And honestly, I look for any excuse I can to go there. You know, sometimes I'll leave things at the office just so I can go back, and maybe I'll run into somebody cool. You know,
I would do that too.
And then, you know, I always make sure that whenever I go there, I'm always driving the truck, you know, get a little extra attention.
Let's tell folks, this truck pulled into my driveway, and I'm like, whoa, it's 36 Ford.
It's 1936 Ford truck.
Oh, my God, it's gorgeous. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a little rat rod. I enjoy it. Probably going to paint, maybe, I was getting a buddy of mine who's a real good songwriter. He's from the area. He lives right up on the Kentucky border. His name's Tom McClure. And he's heard Anna's and Nick Sizemore, so he's wanting to record some stuff. And man, he paints some of the best murals I've ever seen. So I'm like, hey man, I'll give you a good deal on a couple singles. You want to come paint them doors? Because I was thinking about doing like an old hot rod shop design, but making it about, you know, my production and songwriting.
Cool.
I haven't come up with it yet. Right now, I think it'd be cool if it just said dim lights, thick smoke, because, you know, the lights on it don't work real well, and I'm always smoking. But
you've got this bumper sticker on the back window.
Oh, yeah, no steel, no deal.
No steel, no deal.
That's it.
Yeah. Wonderful. What studio do you use when you're producing?
Primarily, I use Riverfront Studios, which is Pat Lassiter's studio out in Madison.
Madison?
On the first record, I use Mark Thornton's studio, Sidekick Studio. And honestly, they're both great. They both have their own things about them. It just depends on the artist's budget and what they want to do sound-wise, because both studios sound different. They both sound great. Mark's got kind of a 40s, 50s thing going on with his. And then, and this is just my opinion, and then Pat's has a little bit more of a 70s kind of feel, just right out of, you know, because they're using real mics and real preamps and all that kind of stuff. So, and they have different gear, so the different gear kind of gives you a different sound. I did a country song at Mark Thornton's studio, Sidekick, and we did Nick's. And, you know, he played guitar for Jerry Reed, so he used one of Jerry Reed's gut strings on the first song, on Getting Gone. That's him playing. One of Jerry's nylons.
Yeah.
And then also, just, you know, for any of the music nerds out there, some of the microphones he used, I believe on the piano and acoustic, those were old RCA microphones that I believe Chet had given Jerry, and then Jerry gave Mark.
Wow.
So me being a country music nerd, immediately I'm like, oh, yeah, you know.
Country music history nerd, like me.
So I'd highly recommend, if anybody wants to record real country music, you know, either go to Mark Thornton over at Sidekick, which is on one side of Madison, or go to the other side of Madison by the river and go to Pat Lassiter's Riverfront Studio. And I love both of those studios. And also, you know, they're really affordable for a studio.
Are they really?
Because I've talked to a few artists about doing some more records coming up, and they're always, you know, the budgets, you only need a certain amount of money to create a good record, a good country record. But some people want the experience, and it's like, well, if you want to spend twice as much money, we can go to Blackbird, or we can go to Southern Ground. That's my favorite kind of high-end studio here. That's where I cut my first record.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Southern Ground. That was Zach Brown's, right?
Yeah, the main thing that attracted me to it, my buddy was working there at the time, Preston Tate White. He also produced my first record. He owns American Microphone Company. He makes microphones.
Wow.
I mean, then they're incredible. The only reason I don't have one is because I can't afford them, but they're worth every penny.
Wow.
And so he was working upstairs there, kind of repairing everything, and he kind of got me a good deal there. Well, when I started reading about it, I found out they used to be Monument. So, you know, you brought him up at the beginning of the show, but Christopherson recorded a few records in there. So I was immediately, they got one of Greg Allman's B3s in the corner. You got access to, you know, 66, you know, 335s, 53 Telecasters.
Whoa.
Real reverb rooms, you know, so I was like, yeah, this is great.
I'm in.
Yeah, so you know, I would love to produce some records out there at some point, but that's a totally different ticket to a totally different show you're buying, you know. So for me,
I would say,
I feel like if somebody's wanting to do the kind of records I want to produce, they're probably not going to be rich, you know. So as a result, I think Mark Thornton's studio, Sidekick, and I think Pat Lassiter's studio, Riverfront, are the two best contenders in town.
Pretty cool. To
get a real sound out of, because they're real rooms, real microphones, real engineers. And, you know, a country song, honestly, and Nick Sizemore, they're probably the most modern records that have been recorded at Mark's.
Really?
I mean, he does like rockabilly and more of the Charlie Crockett inspired, 40s, 50s kind of stuff
50s
there.
country. Yeah,
And
yeah.
but yeah, no man, they're great. Wonderful. They're great studios.
Wow. You play us another one?
Sure, yeah. Actually, I'll since I know when this is coming out, I'll play you one that nobody's heard.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't believe it, but Hal and Doc Lewis and Zach and we wrote a Christmas song.
Awesome. Well, we're getting close to the season.
Well, I never thought I'd ever write a Christmas song.
I don't have many myself.
And I never thought I'd write a Christmas song that I liked. So I told him, I was like, I want to cut this. I want to cut a single of this and put it out for Christmas, because it'll probably be the only time in my life where I write, my favorite Christmas song is probably the Pogues' Fairy Tale of New York. You know what I mean? So,
wow.
So this one's called Winter Camp Christmas.
Awesome.
Dreamers and drovers, lonely leftovers, scoundrels and rebels alike, gather on a December night, hungry and howling, bone tired from prowling, and watching the firelight gleam as the cowboys and coyotes dream. It's Christmas Eve west of nowhere. They're out there rambling and free. And it's Christmas Eve west of nowhere. And that's right where they all wanna be. Shadows and stories of range-riding glories, roundups and one-horse towns, just passing the bottle around. Cook fires and guitars under the old stars, just singing a Yuletide song. And the boys start singing along. Firelight and ember, for they all remember, as the sunrise is coming too soon. And there's only time for one more tune. Away in the manger, the voices of strangers blend into a sound of the shepherd coming round. It's Christmas Eve west of nowhere, out there rambling and free. It's Christmas Eve west of nowhere, and that's right where they all wanna be. Well, it's Christmas Eve west of nowhere, and that's right where I wanna be.
That's beautiful, man.
Thank
Good
you.
song.
Thank you.
Christmas Eve west of nowhere. I, in my mind, was traveling back to that drive you made through Nevada.
Oh,
you
yeah.
couldn't even pick up a radio station.
Oh yeah. Well, and I cut one of the choruses out for you to save you a little time on the podcast. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. The edited version.
Yeah, I did a double verse on the back end there. But that one's called Winter Camp Christmas, so it'll be out around Christmas. Yeah.
Awesome, man. It's going to be out. You recorded?
Yeah. Well, I haven't recorded it yet, but I'll get to it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it don't take me too long. If you do real country music, I think right now my normal turnaround producing is a week of pre-production, a week of recording, and then it's done.
Fantastic.
So 3 weeks max. So for one song, probably have it done in a couple of days.
You don't have to build a drum track, right?
No. I just gotta, like I said before, I'm a good enough producer to know that I shouldn't be producing myself. So I gotta find somebody to produce it. But I'm in Nashville; it shouldn't be too hard.
Is it kind of like the thing with a lawyer? You never want to represent yourself.
I think honestly, what it is that I think it's important to find people that you trust. As an artist, I think it's important to find people that you trust to let them figure out how to make everything work so you can just show up and do your job, which is to sing into the can, sell the story. You know what I mean?
Takes a little pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like trying to put on your own TV show and be the camera person and do you know what I mean? Yeah.
And yes.
And I love producing too, because when I show up, my job's not to be an artist. And my job's not to be a songwriter, you know. So the running joke is you keep the songwriters out of the control room, you know. They got too many ideas. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's true.
Yeah, to a degree. It just
I've been doing enough demo
sessions
to know that is true. Yeah. So here's Ben Jarrell's been our guest. He's songwriter. American Songwriter Magazine named him to the 5 top independent country artists you need to hear. And now you've heard him. And I hope that you'll follow. Where can we find you, Ben?
BenJarrell.com, Ben Jarrell Songs on Instagram, Ben Jarrell Music on Twitter, just Ben Jarrell on Facebook. I think that's about all I got right now for
2 R's and 2 L's, right?
Yep. 2 R's and 2 L's, and it's Jarrell. But I mean, you can pronounce it however you want as long as you spell it right on the check. You know? So.
I love it. With that, thank you so much for being on our show.
You,
Ben
Dave.
Jarrell, continued success with songwriting, your artistry, and production as well.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this intimate glimpse into the world of songwriting and found inspiration in the stories shared by our talented guests. Remember, the magic of music lies not only in the notes and chords, but in the emotions and experiences woven into every lyric. Until next time, keep listening, keep creating, and keep the melodies alive.